It's time for the Splash Live from Civic Center TV, featuring stories from and about people like you in the Greater West Bloomfield area. Simulcast on cable, 89.3 Lakes FM, social media, and the web. Now live from Green Media Center on Walnut Lake Road, it's the Splash Live.
Live, local, social, it's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM. Welcome, friends and neighbors. I'm Tyler Kieft. Thank you so much for joining us. The demolition process is set to begin at Roosevelt Elementary School in Keego Harbor. Michigan's Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, or EGLE, has received a 10-day notice from the West Bloomfield School District or their contractors of intent to demolish, quote, asbestos-containing materials, end quote, in the over 100-year-old former school building on Cass Lake Road. EGLE will be hosting an informational session via Zoom on September 25th at 6 p.m. That is open to the public. Registration is required in order to attend. There's a QR code we will put up on your screen just momentarily that will take you to that website directly so that you can learn more information about this and sign up for the informational session via Zoom with the Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and EGLE. We'll get that up for you here in just a moment. Again, September 25th at 6 p.m. is when this informational session will be happening. It is going to be for the purposes of providing information on this project and on the abatement to the public, as well as to take questions from the public about this particular project happening in Keego Harbor. Quote, from the Department of EGLE directly, quote, it is to provide information and answer questions from the public, end quote. This asbestos removal process is regulated by EGLE under standards established in the National Emission Standards for Hazardous Air Pollutants, or NESHAP program for asbestos, a federal program implemented by the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA. There, finally, is the QR code. Thank you to our team for getting that up on the screen in a timely manner. Scan that QR code and you'll be able to get to a website from the Michigan.gov page for the Department of EGLE that will take you for more information about the Roosevelt Asbestos Abatement Project and get you the information you need at the bottom right side of your screen to sign up for that informational Zoom. Once again, the meeting is open to the public per EGLE's webpage on Michigan.gov. The purpose of the informational meeting is, quote, to provide information to answer questions from the public, end quote. For more information, visit michigan.gov/EGLE. That's michigan.gov/EGLE. The biggest football game of the weekend may not be the homecoming of Ben Johnson this Sunday when the Lions take on the visiting Chicago Bears downtown at Ford Field. No, it's rather the West Bloomfield Lakers tonight, welcoming OAA Red Division rivals in Rochester Adams to town to open their Red Division schedule. It's a game circled on both Laker and Highlander calendars and is drawing the eye of the entire region. Set to be picked up on State Champs Network and on Local 4+ for their broadcast this evening. Joining me on the show is the man on the call tonight, Sean Belegian from State Champs. Sean, thank you so much for being on the show.
Appreciate you having me. You are absolutely right. What a dandy that we're going to have at a great venue this weekend. Really, really looking forward to heading out your way.
Yeah, pretty obvious choice for State Champs and Company to come back to this matchup in 2025. Just like last week, the third week of the season, the opening of the Red Division schedule for both of these teams, and could not come in a better time with West Bloomfield and Rochester Adams both sort of having a similar start in their first 2 weeks, a couple of blowout wins in non-conference and in conference crossover games. So what about this matchup for you and for your team excites you as we head into week number 3 at the Swamp on Friday night?
Well, I think first, if it's anything like last year, I mean, my goodness gracious, it was an instant classic. I know, your fan base didn't like the way it ended, but that was arguably one of the games of the year. It really was just an outstanding game. And you know what? You look at this one and the start that these two teams are off to, it jumps out to you. I mean, right now, West Bloomfield with a pair of 37-0 wins. I mean, outscoring opponents 74-0, and not to be undone and trying to keep pace take a look at what the Highlanders have done. They've outscored their early opponents 70-10. So this should be a fantastic matchup. I'm really looking forward to this. And, as you mentioned, that's such a great venue. And so when you put all that together and a Friday night, we should have a beaut this week, no doubt about it.
And there's no unfamiliar territory for state champs and their organization for over 20 years have been following high school sports, especially high school football, every fall. And in recent years have been doing these live games, mostly streaming on their YouTube page. Unique this season, you're also partnering with WDIV Local 4 on their webpage, Local 4 Plus, to air these games. What's that experience been like for you to not only continue to cover a lot of these really interesting high school games every week throughout the season, but now expand that audience out as more people have their eyes on high school football than ever before?
I think it starts with giving Channel 4 credit for having the foresight to see how big this is. And the reason why this is so big is because of, quite frankly, productions like you guys are doing. High school sports have blown up. Prep football in particular is huge around here. It's changed so dramatically. Forget the last 20 years. I think you could say in the last 10 years. So for them to have the foresight, and as you mentioned, put the games on Local 4 Plus. Some games have been on Channel 4 proper. I think it's about darn time, because I think the secret is out. Not only how great these games are when you go to places like the Swamp and all over Michigan, but I think the secret is out in regards to the national recruiting scene as well. We're getting guys all over the place now. We're getting guys. Before it was, okay, which big school around here can you go to? But now, you're plucking talent off of so many of these teams, and they're going to the ACC, or they're going to the PAC, or they're going to the ACC. And that's the beautiful thing about this right now is not only are you getting these outstanding games on the weekend, such as this game, but you're getting so many 4- and 5-star athletes who are going on. And I'll repeat the same thing. The secret is out at the caliber and quality of athlete here in the great state of Michigan.
Yeah, I was watching a game recently, and I saw a name come up that looked really familiar to me. It was Jalen Todd, who I had seen play locally here in the Metro Detroit area, play against the Lakers in recent years, making a big play for Kansas last weekend. And every now and then I'll see one of these names pop up. It'll ring familiar to me, and we've seen them either on Civic Center TV or in our research before calling these games in years past. So getting that chance to expand high school football on the regional level, get that reach for many of these talented athletes who otherwise may get some eyes on them because of some of their very talented teammates, or may never get this chance at all. Now they have that chance. Sean Baligian is with us, play-by-play announcer with state champs, as they will be calling the West Bloomfield Lakers OAA Red Division opener against Rochester Adams on Friday night at the Swamp. Big implications for this game too, Sean, with both teams coming in 2-0. The OAA Red Division, much like last season, up for grabs right now. And this is a game that has a chance to put either one of these teams, whether it's the Lakers or the Highlanders, at the end of that 48 minutes in the driver's seat of the OAA Red Division. So we can expect to have, again, some very close and very competitive football on Friday night.
Don't be surprised if it doesn't come down to the last possession again. Mm-hmm. At all. Don't be surprised at all. And you're right. Listen, it starts with taking care of business in the OAA Red. But, these are two teams that have bigger aspirations other than that as well. Don't get me wrong. As you mentioned, whoever wins this game, they're in the driver's seat. But as you know, the ultimate prize for programs of this caliber is what transpires into November, and then into mid-November, and then into late November. And these are two teams that in the past have made large runs by that. So in no way, shape, or form am I downplaying what this is. But these are two high-caliber, high-quality programs that, you want to start there. You want to take care of business in your own division, especially if you're West Bloomfield, trying to exact a measure of revenge on your home field. But, these are also two teams. We in the media are allowed the luxury of looking ahead, right? I know these guys are focused one game at a time, 1 week at a time, and rightfully they should. But these are two teams that I think their prize could come later in November as well. And so that's what makes a matchup like this so special.
2 consecutive years, we've seen both of these teams. Last year, Rochester Adams, the year before, West Bloomfield, in that D1 state semifinal, going up against the eventual champions. They're looking to both get back to that point, get over the hump, and take the title back to their hometowns. Big start on Friday night at West Bloomfield High School, where, as you said, I mean, the numbers show it. In the last 10 matchups, it's barely in West Bloomfield's favor. 6 wins for West Bloomfield, 4 for Rochester Adams. The scoring difference just as close, 248 points for West Bloomfield, 203 for Rochester Adams. This individual matchup kind of a little bit more interesting. For Rochester Adams, they're bringing back a lot of their power players, especially Rhino Waters, although he was injured in week 2, and that could have an impact in this game in week 3. And for West Bloomfield, completely different story. A very young team, especially on the offense, but one that showed a ton of promise in their first 96 minutes on the gridiron.
Well, no doubt about that. I mean, all we have to do is go back to what we were talking about at the beginning. When you put up 37 on Forge and you put up 37 on Southfield, obviously you're doing something right. And, this is what good programs do. It's an X man up. Okay, we lost a lot, but these are guys that are in the system. They know what the expectations are at a place like West Bloomfield. So I think that's what's made the Lakers, such a special story for a long time now. And you nailed it with Rochester Adams. I mean, it sounds like this could be the Nolan Ferris show for Rochester Adams. And, how much of a factor will that be? Well, I'll say the same thing about them. This is a guy that has seen some time. This is a guy that understands what Adams football is all about. So you add it all up, and I honestly, I think we're in for a treat on Friday night.
Always great to see this West Bloomfield program, a more recent success story versus Rochester Adams, the leadership of Tony Petrito over these 20-plus years, one of those programs in Southeast Michigan that you look at on the Mount Rushmore of great programs in Southeast Michigan for football, bringing the Veer into West Bloomfield on Friday. A completely new slate of stars for West Bloomfield in 2025, already impressing. We talked about the quarterbacking situation for Rochester Adams. Could be Nolan Ferris, very likely. Could also still be Rhino Waters if he does recover enough to play on Friday evening. Could even be a 2-quarterback system. And on the West Bloomfield side, that 2-quarterback system usually doesn't work very well. So far, been working wonders for them, especially with their junior quarterback, Jackson Carver, incredibly efficient, 8 for 11 passing in the first 2 weeks, including a couple of bombs for touchdowns, 151 yards, not a single interception. And then they got guys like Joel Davis who are emerging as power players in the skill positions as well. How much of an interest has this team sparked for you in watching their tape from the first 2 weeks? What do you think is the potential of this Lakers team in 25?
Well, I'm intrigued at the kid you were just talking about. I'm intrigued. I've heard some things. I had a couple guys mention some things before the season started. How many times have we seen this, though, where you have 2 teams, the caliber of which we've been speaking about the entire conversation. One has scored 70 points so far this year. The other has scored 74, and we all sit back and go, oh, baby, is this going to be a shootout? And then the defense comes out and reminds everybody, whoa, hold on. No, this isn't going to be some 35, 37 type of game. I think we see that more often than not. I think the big plays are going to be huge. They always are. But I think the big plays are going to be huge in this. But I have a feeling, as prolific as these offenses have been, we all have the tendency to look at shiny things. Let's not forget that you have a West Bloomfield team that hasn't given up a single point yet. Mm-hmm. You have a Adams team that's only given up 10 points. I have a feeling in this one, maybe the defense is a little bit more important than people let on. Now that I verbalize that, we're in store for a 42-41 game or something like that. But I think, honestly, I think both of these defenses might have a bigger say in this one than anybody thinks.
You think about a team like Dearborn Fordson. That's not a team that gives up a ton of points. West Bloomfield blew them out. Same thing with Rochester High School. They're in 2025, one of the stronger up-and-coming teams in the OAA White that has a quality win under their belt also. Rochester Adams ran the floor with them last week. Prolific defenses on both sides. Jeremiah Benson leading the charge for the Lakers, but they've had a ton of playmakers. They've been forcing fumbles, getting to the football, incredibly aggressive. That defense is extremely impressive, and we can't forget 1 year ago, this very week in the season, it was a 14-14 matchup in the last 10 minutes, and it took almost a full 10-minute drive for Rochester Adams, and what might be the most perfectly executed drive of the entire high school football season to win that game. And that game was tied at 0 at the break.
Yep. And that's what I'm talking about, guys. Sometimes when it looks like it's going to go one way and, you look at all the shiny things and how they're moving up and down the field, I think you have to remember these are two good teams, and a lot of times defense shows itself out. So I'm going to say I wouldn't be surprised if we see the exact same scenario as last year. Who's got the ball last? And that last score might make all the difference in the world in a matchup of as you mentioned, I mean, this is really two Titans, not just in the OAA, but I think in the entire state. I mean, two programs that kind of their recent past speaks for itself.
And our local audience here in West Bloomfield going to have a big show at the Swamp on Friday night, or at home and around the state, wherever they are. They can watch it on State Champs on their YouTube page at StateChampsNet, as well as on Local 4 Plus. That's clickondetroit.com/live. We'll have all the links on our Lakers sports page on CivicCenterTV.com to get you where you need to go. Sean, thank you for your time. Excited to hear your call on Friday night.
Well, thank you for having me. Keep up the great work, and we'll see you on Friday.
Appreciate that. Glad to have you on the show, Sean, and always enjoy watching Laker football on a Friday night. We'll be there in the stadium having some fun with the audience and with the Swamp at West Bloomfield High School, the student section. While State Champs takes over the broadcast this week, CivicCenterTV.com/LakerSports is the place to go to find the links to watch that broadcast if you're having any trouble. And, of course, to get a preview of the game on This Week in Laker Football, already posted on that very page. September is Emergency Preparedness Month, National Preparedness Month through the Federal Emergency Management Agency, with other agencies statewide and locally encouraging Michiganders and other residents to be prepared for hazards inside and outside of their home. Our guest today to discuss this topic is a West Bloomfield Township trustee with over 20 years of experience in public safety, many of those as our local police chief. Michael Patton joins us now on the Splash Live. Former chief, welcome back.
Good morning.
Glad to have you on, Trustee Patton, to talk about emergency preparedness, something that you have had a strong role in helping our community be ready for many years in your capacity with the West Bloomfield Police Department. For individuals and their families in our community, how important is their own emergency preparedness in the full scope of how our local police, fire, EMS, and other emergency apparatus factor in when an emergency hits?
Well, I think, Tyler, thanks again for inviting me on this morning. I brought up at the recent township board meeting, in addition to the other recognitions they are doing for Suicide Prevention Month and other recognitions, that September is National Preparedness Month. And I think that is something that we need to focus on probably a little bit more in the community. We're fortunate that we've not had widespread or frequent emergencies or widespread kind of catastrophes within the community. But I think it's always best to be prepared. If you fail to plan, then you're planning to fail. And I think that's what we need to concentrate on a little bit more sometimes. When you're looking at preparedness, you don't have to go full tilt survivalist, prepper kind of mentality. But I think there's some basic core things that we encourage our residents to do. And one of the first things you need to do is to have a plan in place. You need to sit down with your family members or important others in your life and sit back and say, what if? What if this happened? What if there was a tornado? What if there was a protracted power outage? What if the water, we had loss of water? We've seen those kind of things happen, at least sometimes in the recent history in West Bloomfield. But it's good to have a plan in place to talk about what you'd have. And those plans need to be perhaps unique to your family. Do you have children? Do you have pets? Do you have elderly residents in your home? Do you have people with infirmities or disabilities that need to be considered? That if we had to stay in the home here for a protracted period of time, how would we get along? How would we be able to sustain our life and health within the home? And I think those are important discussions to have.
And it's because these emergencies that do pop up, they're not small emergencies just here in Greater West Bloomfield. Often they do affect multiple communities. Yes, there are those tornado warnings that come up, those floods that come up in certain places here and there. But we have had major incidents throughout the years. The blackout in the Metro Detroit area over 20 years ago, that affected Greater West Bloomfield. The COVID-19 pandemic, even a water main break just a few years ago, shut off a significant portion of our township's water for a significant period of time, and we had to be individually and collectively prepared for that. And so, Trustee Patton, as people make that individual plan, how does that then factor into the wider spread preparedness that is often led by our police, our fire, and our EMS?
Well, look, there are always going to be public safety services that are out there working, perhaps working harder when an emergency happens. I think one of the things you need to do is to stay dialed in to understand that when something is tipping off, that you are alert, and then you can activate your plan in place. There are some things we'd recommend people do. Like, one is getting an emergency radio. It has NOAA weather radio capability so that you can be alert. Now, this particular one right here, and it's not supporting any particular brand, because there's a lot you can find online, is a hand crank radio that you don't need to have electricity for. That if the power is out, you can take it out, hand crank it for a few minutes, and then you can listen to radio notifications, even if you're listening to 89.3 Lakes FM for those notifications. It's important to keep in plan. So, look, you want to have water in your home. I mean, people always think, well, if the water's out, I'll just run down to the local store, or Myers or Walmart or someplace, and get some water. By the time you get out of bed and have that thought, everyone else is in line in front of you, and there may not be those local resources for you to buy. So I think it's important that you do those kind of things. You want to have sufficient water in your home for a few days. There are resources out there you can look at. You can look at the FEMA website or the ready.gov federal websites for information or suggestions. You can look at Oakland County, the gov.net website, and look at resources there. You can look at the state of Michigan website. Couple of things we always recommend people to do here in West Bloomfield, there is a Nixle, Nixle alert system that you can subscribe to. The information from that, you go on the township website, on the police webpage, it'll tell you how simple it is to subscribe to that. And you can get notifications, whether about the road is closed due to a traffic crash, or about other emergency notifications, and those are primarily put out by the police department. You can also sign up for the Oakland County alert system. I just got a notification the other day that they were changing some of their format, a specific system they were using, and you want to be able to use that and to put out a wider range area of communications. West Bloomfield we do task our emergency management responsibilities to Oakland County. So, in an area-wide emergency, we would be looking to Oakland County to help manage and resource us here in West Bloomfield in what's going on. Our great fire chief, Greg Flynn, is our point of contact for emergency management with Oakland County.
And it's all about being prepared, both individually and as your collective in your household. Even here in Greater West Bloomfield, one of the more safe communities in all of Metro Detroit and all of the state of Michigan, that preparedness does play a huge role when emergencies do arise, either in your home, in your neighborhood, or all throughout the community and beyond. West Bloomfield Township trustee and former police chief Michael Patton joins us on the Splash Live. For more information on National Preparedness Month, as well as resources to help you form your plan with you and yours, ready.gov/September is the website. That is their National Preparedness Month website. Individually, it has plenty of different information on there, including a helpful toolkit, some messages, some additional resources for low and no cost tips that will help you and your family, building a family emergency plan, and all of that. Ready.gov/September. And Trustee Patton, not only is having this information important, not only is making a plan important, the final element is then practicing that plan. How important in preparedness is the practice element?
Well, look, we always advocate an all hazards approach so that most of what you're doing or planning for could be used or applicable to whatever the situation or emergency that you're facing at the time. So whether it's a weather related thing or it's a power related or a water related, that all hazards are kind of approach. There's one website that I think it's actually based in a Michigan-based company called Do One Thing, and they advocate on a monthly basis. Matter of fact, they have calendars that you can purchase that they advocate that you start concentrating, just take one thing that you can do each month, whether it be getting water, talking about medical emergencies, developing a first aid kit, a shelter, special needs. Do one thing per month, and over the course of a year, you're basically covered probably a wide latitude of things that you should be concentrating on. Look, you mentioned earlier about the police and fire, and yes, they'll be very active in the community along with other resources in any kind of emergency. But it's important that you develop with your family, whether at home or at work, some resiliency. Because yes, government will be there to start managing and bringing containment and closure to whatever the emergency is. But you need to be, as an individual and as a family, and perhaps as a business, you need to be resilient. And you be able to survive and outlast the emergency basically on your own, maybe regardless whether or not emergency services are there to help you.
You think about it sort of like the road commission when they're clearing out those main roads after a big snowstorm. They start with the most heavily trafficked areas. So does our local emergency services. Those areas of the greatest overall need are where they're going to start, the macro down to the micro. That's why you take care of the micro at home, outward to help the macro in our community. Chief Patton, thank you so much for your time today, as always.
Thank you very much.
Former police chief and township trustee Michael Patton joining us on the Splash Live as we recognize National Preparedness Month here in Greater West Bloomfield. Couple of websites, again, the organization he talked about, that preparedness organization based here in Michigan, Do One Thing. Their website, do1thing.com. That's do1thing.com. And for more information from the Federal Emergency Management Agency about National Preparedness Month, as well as a bevy of resources, ready.gov/September. Close to home, a piece of history on the water that remains part of everyday activity in Greater West Bloomfield, even now in 2025. Reporter Jake Schaff has the story.
Just recently at the Pine Lake Marina, the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society put together another exciting opportunity for local residents to learn about the rich history of the community. Learning about the stories, the camps, and the transportation systems that were popular 100 years ago and still have prominent historical significance today.
Oh, we had a terrific exchange of information. People that are interested in a little bit of history behind Pine Lake and the marina, as well as the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. Hopefully they learn about the Girls Friend Society, which was also on the lake. We also talked a little bit about the motor club that eventually turned into the Pine Lake Country Club. We learned about that as well, and as well as the history of the marina itself. Recreation and boating, and thus the inception or the creation of the marina is a mainstay here on Pine Lake.
What stood out the most to you tonight out of everything you learned?
I was really interested to hear that there was an interurban railroad. I had no idea about the light rail system that used to be here, and kind of wish it was still here because it sounds really great to be able to hop on a trolley and just to go to Pontiac or Detroit. And just really interesting to learn about the progression of things and how we see those footprints around us still. Yeah, so it was a really interactive program. We got to be in a beautiful marina and see the lake and meet people and hear about their own personal stories and history of their families and experiences that they've had. And it's just really cool to walk, into somewhere that you've driven past and didn't really think about and know that it's history right here.
The whole township is very old and it holds lots and lots of history. There's so many historical events and buildings and peoples and societies that have existed here in the township for all these years. And it's so terrific that the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society brings to light all of the rich history that we all share.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's really an untapped resource that we have in our community that people don't realize. There are these amazing people, amazing volunteers, and amazing resources all around us, and really, gives you a view of the history that you're standing on and driving by, and just really contributes to a richer understanding of your world.
It's always a great night to learn a little bit more about your community, even things you never would have expected. Big thank you to the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society for putting together another exciting event and for preserving our history every step of the way. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff.
Appreciate the story, Jake. We're not done yet with the Greater West Bloomfield Historical Society. More with them coming up early on next week. And you can find information on all of their upcoming programs on gwbhs.org. It could be a family member, a coworker, or another member of the community out in the public. When a medical emergency suddenly puts life or death into question, will you know what to do when those precious moments arise before first responders can arrive on site? That's made much more easy with the help of our local fire department, which provides first aid and CPR training to keep people like you prepared. I had a chance to speak with Captain Blake Belsky from the West Bloomfield Fire Department to learn more about opportunities for people like you to learn the basics and get certified in life-saving CPR. Captain Belsky, thank you for being on the show today.
Good morning, Tyler. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, happy to have you back, especially for a topic like this as we get into the school year, as we get into the fall and people are out and about for fall events, and there's all the stress of the holidays that come up eventually. There's a lot of different risk factors that could put people's lives at risk and be in need of someone being able to administer CPR or use an AED. So for the average citizen in West Bloomfield, why should they get trained from our local fire department or another organization in CPR and in first aid?
Well, cardiac arrest is one of those factors that is able to ignore age. It's able to ignore income. It doesn't matter where you live, where you came from, or who you hang out with. Everyone is at risk eventually for sudden cardiac arrest, and to reduce the likelihood of that being a fatal incident, if somebody is able to provide CPR and use an AED within seconds of you experiencing that cardiac arrest, that significantly increases your likelihood for survival.
And so when people undergo this training, what are some of the things that they learn that can really be helpful, not only when they complete the training, but even in the event that they experience some sort of sudden cardiac arrest or another emergency while they're in that training proper?
Well, one of the things that we tell people in the first 5 minutes of this training is that the folks that work for the fire department and the police department, they're out there and they've certainly done their fair share of CPR in their careers. We've never seen it work unless somebody is doing CPR when we arrive. Sometimes that's at a nursing home where you've got a medical professional providing CPR. Sometimes it's at somebody's house during a holiday dinner. Somebody experienced cardiac arrest and somebody who had training was able to come in, start doing compressions, maybe start some rescue breathing, and give that person a fighting chance to get a heartbeat back by the time we arrive and are able to take over. We do a lot of CPR. We can't do it successfully without the help of the community, though, and that's why this training is so valuable.
And so for people that may be interested, they want to get CPR trained, they want to update their training and maybe get recertified, how do they go about that with the West Bloomfield Fire Department?
So the West Bloomfield Fire Department is a regional training center for the American Heart Association. We offer certification classes every other month on the first Monday of the month in the evenings, trying to accommodate those work schedules. Our next class is on, it looks like October 6th. Then we have another one scheduled for December 1st at 6 p.m. both days. And if you're interested, it's a $35 charge, and that covers the cost of the book and the cost of the certification card from the American Heart Association. I would love for everyone who's interested to call our office at 248-409-1505. Our AHA guru, Amy, will be able to get everything scheduled. There is one little hitch. We still only accept cash payments for these classes. It's just a way that we're able to process this quickly and efficiently. But if you're interested in a class that's not scheduled, we love to come in and we can do these classes for church groups. We can do them for neighborhood associations. And give us a call at that phone number and we'd be happy to schedule anything that works best for your group and your schedule.
And you made this important point earlier, kind of are now touching on it again. All these different groups, they all need to have some sort of training like this, at least somebody in that group in the event of an emergency, but also that comes back to CPR, first aid, even AED training, being something that can be done for all ages. It's not something that's limited to just adults. That's also a really important thing for people to consider, especially with their kids back in school.
Absolutely. The AHA does not put a limit on how old you have to be to get the certification. If you're interested in just learning hands-only CPR, that is I can teach you hands-only CPR in about 30 seconds. And I appreciate you mentioned the change in the date for the fire department open house. We will have a hands-only CPR station where we will teach you how to do compressions. As soon as you see someone fall down and you don't notice a pulse, you can do something immediately and learn it quickly and move on with the rest of your day. Get some cider and donuts at the open house. We've got some fantastic community partners at the high school. Mrs. Zanotti and Mrs. Danton do a great job with their CPR program. They're affiliated with our training center. The student Matilda Edwardson has done a really fantastic job with her WB Has Heart program, getting CPR education out to her peers at the high school. It's been really fantastic to work with everyone over there.
And to see their interest, too, in this, because it's become more of a reality that this doesn't have an age limit to it. We're not going to see sudden cardiac arrest just in mostly elderly patients or those that have some common physical risk factors that really can be something that affects people of all different ages. And so for you on the first responders side, to see that sort of interest from especially young people in the community, how does that give you and your peers confidence, especially as you're going out on these emergency calls and are being called in for life-saving service where, as you said, those opening moments can be really critical?
Absolutely. We've been very fortunate in West Bloomfield to have the support of the community when it comes to a reliable tax base or people coming out and seeing what their tax dollars are paying for at the open house. But that support goes so much further than just making sure that you're up to date on your taxes. To support your community by learning CPR, to save the people who live next door, save the people that live in your house, shop at your grocery stores. It's really wonderful for us to see because, we've only got so many tools, and it's going to take us from the time somebody calls 911 to the time our crews can arrive. It could be 5-7 minutes from phone call to arrival on scene. And that 5 to 7 minutes is a long time for your body to go without a heartbeat. So the sooner somebody is able to jump in there, it certainly makes our job a lot easier. And there's really nothing better than doing CPR on somebody and feeling that pulse come back, seeing a blood pressure, and maybe 2-3 weeks down the road, seeing that patient walk out of the hospital. It really is a wonderful thing, and it makes everyone on our crew smile.
You can follow the West Bloomfield Fire Department on Facebook at WB Fire Department. You can also visit their website on the West Bloomfield Township website, wbtownship.org, for more information. Joining us from the West Bloomfield Fire Department is Captain and EMS Coordinator Blake Belsky as we consider CPR and first aid training for people across the community. Captain, the training is really helpful. It gives people that full picture of how to potentially save lives or maintain lives before those first responders get to the scene in the event of an emergency. But for those that are at home or at work or anywhere around the community watching and listening to this today that haven't undergone that training or are awaiting that, what are some things that they should know now that can really help in their own providing of first aid right in this moment if something happened today before our West Bloomfield Fire Department arrives on scene?
Sure, and a lot of people, even with that, the knowledge and the skill set after they get the training, it's a big ask to ask somebody to intervene. Early identification. We love prevention, but we love early identification. If you see somebody collapse, go up and see if they're okay. And if they're not okay, whether they're breathing or they're not breathing or they're choking or you can feel a pulse, you can't feel a pulse, the next step after you've identified that something is wrong is call for help. Call 911, get these crews on the road. Our police officers are constantly patrolling. Sometimes they're able to arrive even before the fire department on these cardiac arrest issues. And they've got AEDs in their car. They've got CPR certification as well, and they can get things moving along sometimes before our fire department crews arrive with their advanced equipment. Figuring out that something happened that shouldn't have happened, and then calling for help. Those are the biggest things we can do if you don't have the skills or the comfort really to start providing those interventions yourself.
And just one more time for us, you did mention in passing earlier on in our conversation today, those opening moments, you see somebody collapse. You've identified that someone maybe is having a cardiac arrest or other emergency incident. Those first 30 seconds, first couple of minutes, just how vital are those and the response from the people around those individuals in a matter of life and death?
I mean, every second counts, Tyler. We can compare it to holding your breath. When somebody stops breathing, they're not breathing. Try holding your breath for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes until the fire department is able to arrive and start breathing for you. It usually doesn't work out well for the person that's trying to hold their breath that long. If you can't breathe, the sooner somebody's able to start breathing for you, the better your outcome will be.
All the more reason to undergo some of this training from our friends over at the West Bloomfield Fire Department. CPR, first aid, AED training, all through the West Bloomfield Fire Department, or they can point you in the direction of other local organizations that can also help you with that vital training. Captain Belsky, thank you as always for your time.
Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate you having me.
More helpful information is available on their Facebook page at WB Fire Department. You can also join them next week, Sunday, September 21st at Fire Station number 1 for the West Bloomfield Fire Department Open House. Again, that is on Sunday, September 21st at Fire Station number 1. That'll happen from 12 noon until 3 p.m. And, of course, it's going to be a few weeks earlier this year as opposed to in recent years where it's usually been somewhere in early October, as they'll be undergoing renovations over at Fire Station number 1 beginning very shortly. Music lovers are about to have a weekend to remember when Bex Gaunt, Zach Stokowski, and friends make their way to Prince of Peace Catholic Church in West Bloomfield Township on Sunday, September 14th, featuring folk melodies, classic Disney ballads, and Broadway tunes to get you up on your feet and celebrating on what's supposed to be a beautiful day in West Bloomfield. I spoke to Bex Gaunt earlier this week for a special preview of the concert. Bex, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Tyler.
Yeah, happy to have you on to talk about your upcoming concert at Prince of Peace. Kind of playing a little bit of everything for the community on this particular Sunday night. So give us a little bit of insight into why that's the case. Why bring a little bit of something from Broadway, a little bit from Disney, and then, of course, also some violin tunes as well?
Well, my career has been very eclectic and really all about meaningful collaborations with all kinds of artists, folk artists, bluegrass, classical, choirs, everything. And so at this point, I thought, what if I captured all of these beautiful collaborations that I've had in my career by featuring some of my favorite pieces, some of my favorite songs throughout, including a few of my original pieces.
And then to do so at a local church. In our community, it's going to be Prince of Peace in West Bloomfield, where this performance will happen on Sunday. But why that environment as a place to perform this wide variety of different tunes?
Well, as many artists get their start, my start as a collaborating musician was in a church in middle school. And church is a place where people come to seek connection, and music is such an important part of church community experiences. And so I know I've really enjoyed singing and cantering there from time to time. And so it'll be wonderful to share a different perspective of music that's not just sacred.
And you mentioned, too, that the singing element of your music career began in part in the church, but you're also a violinist. So what drew you to the violin?
Well, funny enough, I was a tennis player first as a kid. I played piano, but tennis was really my passion, and I had a rare injury at age 10. And so my mom got me violin lessons, and it stuck, and I'm grateful.
And so as you were growing up as a vocalist, as a violinist, interested in all these different types of music, what are some of the musical influences that helped you mold yourself as an artist and led to you playing a lot of these tunes that people in our community are going to hear on Sunday, September 14th?
Well, like I said, I've had a really eclectic career ranging from Disney, classical. I've had a chance to perform with the Minnesota Orchestra and other orchestras, but my influences are wide ranging. I think of car rides on the way to school, listening to Simon and Garfunkel with my dad and Carole King with my mom, and of course, Peter, Paul, and Mary and Cat Stevens and Disney, just a really wide array.
The performance is Sunday, September 14th at Prince of Peace Church in West Bloomfield. You can find more information either on their Facebook page at Prince of Peace WB or on their website, princeofpeacecatholic.church. Bex Gaunt is with us, one of multiple performers that will be part of this show on Sunday at Prince of Peace. You're also partnering with Zach Stokowski and friends. What do they bring to this performance? Not only having it be you and your eclectic musical talent and your background, but then to have even more artists be involved. How does that change the dynamic of this show?
Well, to me, music is all about connection, and these are artists that are just renowned and in the community and beyond. And Zach is also a composer, local composer, music director, and he and I are actually going to feature a song where, spoiler alert, he's my husband, and a song that we sang together at our wedding a few years ago that tells a little bit of our background and story. So it's really special to work with such high caliber musicians, but also they're my friends and they're my family. So what could be better than that?
I was just about to ask about what's your favorite song in the order to play, but now that we've got that answer, let's go back through the whole catalog. You play a little bit of Disney, a little bit of Broadway, of course you play some classic violin tunes as well, folk music. Of all those different genres, what is your absolute favorite? What's the most fun experience for you to play as you're a musician connecting with your audience?
Gosh, it really depends on the day. Which one's my favorite? I am going to do a little bit of Brandi Carlile, so that's exciting. A little Sarah Bareilles. I think in these arenas, in these situations, sometimes music theater, which I don't get that many opportunities to do out in public, I really have fun with that. So I'm excited for the music theater part of the performance.
Bex Gaunt is with us. You can see herself, Zach Stokowski, and friends performing at Prince of Peace Church in West Bloomfield Sunday, September 14th. Show begins at 4 o'clock, and you can find more info by following Prince of Peace Church on Facebook at Prince of Peace WB. Bex, you got this entire show planned out. You're coming to West Bloomfield this week. You're going to be playing a number of different songs, but as you're connecting with the audience, what do you believe makes that connection strong in an environment like this, where you're in a close-knit community? A lot of the people that will be there are going to be from within that church community. So as an artist, how do you build that connection and make each show individually special for the audience in front of you?
Well, I make it special by being real, being authentic. So, there's the elements of music that is an escape, that is an adventure, that takes you out from your regular day-to-day mundane things and takes you to this magical place. But there's also the part of connection and music where you think about, what is this community going through, or what might be on their mind? And, recently, specifically for, I know Catholics and Christians and people all over are feeling the weight of the recent tragedy in Minneapolis at Annunciation. And so I want to make sure that I take time to honor those heavy thoughts and those burdens and the people who are suffering. And so that's something I work into my performances is a way to connect to those tough things that we're dealing with. So we will be singing a couple songs in honor of all those affected by those tragedies.
Always heartwarming to be able to connect with other people, take a step back and see the realism that comes from some of our own actions as a society in our community and communities nearby. Reflect on those and still find some joy together all through the medium of music. Bex, thank you so much for your time today. Before we let you go, anything else that people should know about your upcoming performance at Prince of Peace in West Bloomfield?
It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day on Sunday, so we hope that you'll join us and enjoy. There'll be sing-along aspects. Bring the whole family. It's kid-friendly, and I just know you're going to enjoy it.
Indoors or outdoors for this? You mentioned it's going to be a nice day.
It'll be outdoors in the garden.
Even better, you're going to have a beautiful show out in the garden, in the elements, a beautiful fall weather system we've had of late, a little bit of summer peeking back in this week and this weekend as well. Bex, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much, Tyler. I appreciate it.
More information on Facebook at Prince of Peace WB and on their website, princeofpeacecatholic.church. Greater West Bloomfield is home to people from a wide variety of cultural and religious backgrounds, and a group of leaders from right here in our community across different backgrounds are hard at work every month to help keep our community as cohesive and friendly as it has been known to be throughout the generations. Civic Center TV's Jake Schaff has more.
Every month, members of the Greater West Bloomfield Faith and Community Alliance get together to form a sense of unity and connection throughout the entire community of West Bloomfield, building these bonds and helping to make the four communities better and better every single day, even for those of different faiths who come together for a greater purpose.
This organization represents the heart and soul of Greater West Bloomfield. The members of clergy with members in the community come together with a common interest. How can we connect? How can we collectively add greater value, greater insight, and understanding across the entire community?
This was my first experience with being part of a group like this in my professional capacity. I do attend church in my personal life, so I'm familiar with the faith-based organizations and the way they operate and the thought processes. But this is the first time that I've had the opportunity to participate in something like this through a work setting, and it was really nice to see a wide array of different personalities and backgrounds, and people from different walks of life come together and have the same goals in mind.
What is it like to communicate with these big community heads in this way?
Oh, it's wonderful. It's so much fun to get to spend time with all of these wonderful, amazing people who are spending their lives leading communities of care and mission and taking care of other folks. It's been a wonderful privilege. It's not just a matter of doing what Methodists do, but when we work together, we can accomplish so much more, have a bigger impact, and come to a greater understanding of who one another is, so that as human beings that are trying to just be the best that we can be in this community, we can do that better when we're working together and coming to common understandings of who we are.
It's great because, to be able to discuss various things that are the same, really. I mean, we're all people, and how we approach, God. Three of the religions come from the same source. So, it's nice to meet the other leaders and their people and find out more about them and how we relate. We're so much more alike than different. And if we look at the likeness or the sameness instead of how we're different, then we can do a lot more for the community and beyond.
I think because the example that we show, it shows people that they can come together too, and it's okay if you're different. And coming together, you're not always going to agree, but you can find some places of agreement and make an impact on not just your community, but the wider world.
It's another fantastic way to help promote that great sense of community bonding everywhere you look. And a great way to peek inside and see more of the ins and outs on how these communities are run, even in some ways you wouldn't expect. For Civic Center TV, I'm Jake Schaff.
Plenty more information on that available on Facebook if you join their public group. The Greater West Bloomfield Faith and Community Alliance is their name. The biggest game of the week is on the gridiron tonight when the West Bloomfield Lakers take on the Rochester Adams Highlanders at the Swamp. Last year it was a tide-turning matchup, and many expect much of the same this season. Earlier this week, I spoke to Lakers head coach Zach Hilbers for a preview of their OAA Red Division opener.
Well, they're really good. They're really well coached. They have been for years. Their quarterback and middle linebacker, outside linebacker, he plays all over. He's one of the better players in the league, better players in the state of Michigan, in my opinion. And he's been a thorn in our side for years. So a lot of our game plan kind of revolves around him and stopping him because he's pretty good and he has the ball in his hands a lot.
Yeah, the kid you're mentioning, Rhino Waters, their quarterback, coming off an injury in week 5 last year, broke his foot. And somehow the team looked even stronger after he was out last season. Maybe that emotional toll played a role in them ultimately running to the state semifinal, running into Hudsonville. They're coming back with a lot of those same weapons in 2025. You on the other side being a much younger team. We talked earlier about discipline, about the execution of this team in the first 2 weeks. How does all that factor in? As you're going up against a veteran team with some emotional baggage on their shoulder they're looking to answer for in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. He got hurt last year, and they still, with their backup, the Ferris kid, he led them to the semifinals. He's still an integral part of their offense, kind of playing all over. Reminds me a lot of what we do with our guys with like Jamal and Will Espy. He's a similar type of player, so he's equally effective. And they got pieces all around him. They're unique style on offense, unique style on defense, and they're really, really good at what they do. So it's a challenge for sure.
They're coming off of a couple of impressive wins themselves. They put up 39 points on Romeo in week number 1. Last week they hold Rochester, a quality team out of the OAA White, a vastly improved team in 2025, to just 3 points. You look at your team, these 2 shutouts, you look at their team, 2 near shutouts in these first 2 weeks. Talking to your offense, how do you adjust to that, putting up so many points the first couple of weeks and knowing that you may have a little more scarcity in week number 3?
Yeah, we talked about it in our team meeting on Sunday night that, like, to be honest, both of us and Rochester Adams, haven't been really tested in the fourth quarter yet this year. So we both have to be prepared for it. If it falls our way and it doesn't happen, great. But we have to be ready for the resiliency it takes, the perseverance to play 4 quarters of football, because we've been in the fortunate position where we could kind of coast in the fourth quarter the last 2 weeks.
You put up 74 consecutive unanswered points. That's a lot of confidence to build for your defense. That's the good part of the first 2 weeks. The bad part is that confidence can sometimes turn into complacency, especially for young players at the high school level. As you get ready for Rochester Adams, what's the talk in the defensive meeting room as they're preparing for their toughest test yet this season?
Yeah, they're pretty locked in. They don't buy too much into, maybe it's because I don't let them, but they don't buy too much into what we've done the last couple of weeks. And I think a lot of those guys were on the field last year. They remember being tied there in the fourth quarter and them going on a 10.5-minute drive to basically win the game. So that's pretty fresh in our minds, and it's keeping us focused right now.
How much does last year's performance on the road in Adams factor into this for the older players, getting the younger players into the sense of what this game is going to look like? Because, as you said, for most of that game, it was a bit of a back and forth, a tit for tat between your 2 teams, but really there was that last 10 minutes or so where the tide had turned and Adams played perfect football. So how much are the younger guys getting a little bit of a lesson from the elder players about preparing for just how much of a challenge these next several weeks are going to be in the red?
Well, certainly probably a great game to watch as a fan. Wasn't my favorite, but the way it ended. But, it's funny, you can't be a bad defense and have someone go on a 10.5-minute drive, because you would give up a big play at some point and they would score quicker. So, obviously we would have rather stopped them, but they converted 3 or 4 fourth downs on that drive. And they're like what I told our kids last year is, they stepped up and made winning plays when they had to, and we didn't. So it's been on our minds for a long time, and we hope that, we're going to be 1 or 2 plays better this year. But with the way high school football works, they're a different team, we're a different team. Some of the faces might be the same, but it's different kids every year.
And right now, looking at the standings in the red, looking at the results of the first 2 weeks. 3 stand at the top. It's yourself, it's Oxford, the defending champions in this division, and Rochester Adams. Oxford's going up against 1-1 Clarkston. Lake Orion's 0-2, had some injury problems as they head into week number 3. This is a chance for either yourself or the Highlanders to take the driver's seat in the OAA Red. How important is that momentum as you head into the thick of the schedule?
I mean, I guess since it's the first OAA Red game, it's pretty important because 1-0 is a whole lot better than 0-1 because there's only 4 league games. So it's always, all the games are tough and they're all important. There's a reason, like last year Oxford beat us, but had we won, it would have been a 4-way tie at 2-2, and it's, in a way, it would have been pretty metaphoric, I guess. But so we expect them all to be a battle anyway, so it's pretty important because it's the next one.
Lakers taking on Rochester Adams right here at West Bloomfield High School. 7 o'clock kickoff on Friday. That game will be broadcast on State Champs Network and Local 4 Plus as well. We'll have links for that on our Lakers Sports page on civiccentertv.com/Lakers Sports. Coach, as we head into Friday, any last thoughts, lasting images for people to think about as they go into watching the Lakers take on the Highlanders Friday night at the Swamp?
I don't know. If you just look over the course of the years, every time we play these guys, it's a pretty good game. So we expect a lot of entertainment, and we just hope to be 1, 2, 3 scores better, whatever it is. Like, I just want one more point than they have at the end of the day.
Broadcast tonight on State Champs and Local 4 Plus. All that information and more on following the team all season long. CivicCenterTV.com/Lakers Sports. That's our show. I want to remind you that television that's close to home is always online on CivicCenterTV.com and across our social media outlets. Big thank you to our entire team for making this show possible today, and for you, of course, for joining in. For our entire team, I'm Tyler Kieft. Live, local, social. It's the Splash Live on Civic Center TV and 89.3 Lakes FM.